Mountain biking, a sport every person has wanted to do at least one point in their life. Now, what age you get into that sport really determines on how good or bad you are. Now, I've been in the cycling scene most of my life, so I think I'm pretty inclined to say what type of person you are based on what age you got into mountain biking. Might as well get right on with the video. Starting off, we're going to go from the 0 to 5 years old range. Now you may be asking, why are we starting at 0 and not 1 or 2 years old? For the same reason why Specialized decided to make a $1,000 kid rocker bike. Because they can. Let's be real here, you do not have consciousness. I think we all remember around the age of 4 or 5 years old when we're sitting on our parents' couch watching TV and all of a sudden we just start having memories. So yeah, really if you are around this age range and got into mountain biking, you have never thought for yourself in your life, so it's most likely your parents' influence on you. If you're in this age range and you're actually in a mountain cycling inclined area, you most likely do not remember your first time on the trail. So it's basically like coming out of the womb on a bike. You can either become a child prodigy because both your parents support you, or one day you could severely hurt yourself on the trail, and then your parents decide to pull you out of the sport because it's too dangerous. Might as well put you into soccer or football or something more sensible, right? Overall, if you're on a bike within this age range, you're on a pretty big step above everyone else because most of the time, people don't even learn how to ride a bike until they're 7 or 8 years old. And as a matter of fact, let's move on to the next age range. Now this age range I'm going to do from the 6 to 12 year olds because you actually kind of know what you're doing or have a feel of, hey, I'm actually mountain biking. There are various type of kids within this age range, so we're going to talk about the quote-unquote mountain bikers. These are the mountain bikers who are probably riding in the Chiqui Pueblo and just riding around the biggest street in your local neighborhood. You feel like when you hit a little jump off of a curb, you're on the top of the world. Might as well be Red Bull Rampage for those little folks. And if you go down a steep hill, you're deemed as a god amongst all your friends. And if you're deemed as the best cyclist amongst the whole group, it's most likely because you can do no hands down the whole street. Now let's talk about the 6 to 12 year olds who are living up on the west coast of things. We're talking about that Colorado Boulder area or growing up in the dream of Whistler, BC, Canada. This is essentially where child prodigies make or break. But if you made it this far, you've most likely been biking your whole life, so you're most likely racing at this point. You have a bike that costs more than any type of car you'll ever own throughout your whole life, and there's a high probability your parents got in debt to buy that bike so you could be the next Jackson Goldstone. It's like that one funny skiing meme. If you're anywhere from 6 to 12 years old and you grew up in a very inclined place such as Colorado for mountain biking, you're most likely sending 20 footers and you might even be sending a few backflips on them. The one piece of advice I would have for you, kid, don't lose love of the sport because your Red Bull helmet is just a few years away. Now I'm going to include the 12 to 16 year old range. Yes, I know, I'm overlapping on the 12 year olds, but there's a good reason for that. These kids seem to have the highest of high knowledge on everything about biking, but in reality, that's what they think. They think they know everything about cycling, but they don't know anything about it. This is most likely when you get into actual mountain biking and you know you're mountain biking. You're not just riding in a Chiqui Pueblo around the neighborhood, and you're starting to understand a little bit of bike technology here and there, and that exact thing gives you a bit of a power trip. And of course, we cannot forget the roadies are gay reference. There's some weird phenomenon that happens exclusively within this age range of cycling that they think everything road bike related is gay. And I don't know how this ideology can be implemented in their brain because literally nobody except this age range calls roadies gay. I swear, most of my friends who thought road biking was absolutely stupid, they're turning into their 18s and 20s and they're realizing they're getting a road bike. And we're talking about the kids who exclusively rode mountain bikes between this age range of 12 and 16, as well as calling road bikers gay between this age range. So it's a really weird phenomenon and should definitely be studied within some type of psychological book. I'd also like to add, if you get into biking within this age range, you're most likely going to stick with it for the rest of your life. And it's a very high chance that you won't be anything more than a recreational cyclist who likes to spend a little bit of money on their bike here and there. You'll also definitely learn a lot of your bicycle maintenance throughout this age. Now we're going to be talking about the 17 to 25 year old range. Yes, the college kids. If you got into cycling between this age range, it's most likely because a friend in college referred you to mountain biking. You either have some crazy college roommate who raced his whole life and saying, dude, come out on the trails with me. Or you saw some sick ass YouTube video and had a little bit of money lying around and saying, hey, why don't I just buy a mountain bike and try it out? It's a very organic and unique experience because this is something you learn on later on in life, which will then affect the rest of your life. This is kind of like the 12 to 16 year old range in the way that if you actually like mountain cycling, you will most likely be doing it the rest of your life. And most of the time, you have the most mediocre bike out there on the trail because after all, you are the broke college kid who doesn't have much money. Now, I'd like to go from the 26 to 40 year old range. I'm gonna be real here, I almost never see anybody get into the sport of mountain biking between this age range. It seems like the vast majority of people out there on the trail range from the age of 25 and below to about 50 and above. So if you are mountain cycling within this range, you most likely have held onto it from childhood. And this is where you start to get your big boy money. Within this age range, you most likely have already bought a $10,000 bike at this point, just to try it out and live out your childhood dream. Now, if you have held on to mountain biking this long, you're starting to see your skills deteriorate and you're getting worse rather than better. But this specifically happens between the 30 and 40-year-old range. It also seems that most people around this range stop working on their bikes because they have so much money and not enough time, so they just foot it to a shop. As a bike mechanic, I've met plenty competent people who know how to work on their bike in full. They just, for some reason, choose to give it to the shop because they can't be bothered, or they just really don't care anymore about the cycling maintenance. Next up, I'm gonna skip from the 50-year-old to 65-year-old range. These are your golden years of mountain cycling. You most likely sold everything and bought yourself a nice full suspension XC bike, and you just like to ride the local lines that keep you on the ground. You most likely already had 1 or 2 knee surgeries if you've been biking since you were super young and your back's hurting just a bit. A thing that's specific to this age range is that you might also find yourself working in a bike shop, whether that be part-time or nearing retirement. You most likely got involved in the very technical aspect of things, and now you really like it. You understand cycling deeply because you've done it your whole life. And just to make some cash on the side nearing retirement, you're like, hey, might as well work in a bike shop. You get a sick-ass discount to buy some super expensive bikes real cheap, and you just get to talk to competent people about bike technology and what's going on in the Tour de France, or any cycling event of that matter. Now we're going on to the 65 to 80-year-old range. Most of the time, you're no longer riding mountain bikes. At this point, you are the roadie that you called yourself gay all those years ago. If you are riding mountain bikes at this age range, I'm gonna have to give it to you, man. You definitely drank a lot of milk when you were younger because your bones are A1 status. Well, most of the time, these individuals turn over to gravel cycling or road cycling. You're still looking back on those golden years of when you used to send 40-footers, and when you see a young kid out there on the trail, you're like, you know, back in my day, or something along those lines. This is definitely the unique full circle moment that everyone experiences. It may happen earlier around the 40 to 50-year-old range, or it may happen later around this age range. You start to realize, damn, these new kids are crazy, and you reminisce on your past of mountain cycling. And we cannot forget, if you have been cycling your whole life up to this point, there is a 99% chance you either worked in a bike shop or tried to open up your own bike shop, or maybe even try to create your own cycling brand of that matter. There's a high probability you'll fail in this business, which probably happened to you. No offense, but it's rough out here. I mean, look, Kona just went bankrupt, so who would have expected that? But if you lasted long enough to stick it out until this age range, you're definitely enjoying your experience. Now we're going to talk from the 81 to 100-year-old range. You are 100% in the retirement home, in a wheelchair, thinking you're riding a bike because you have some type of dementia. You just start yelling for some reason because you're like, I'm shredding it, I'm shredding it. Or you're still kind of completely sane, but nonetheless, the only type of cycling you're doing is most likely in the back of your mind when you're napping 16 hours a day. I guess that's the sad reality of things, but nonetheless, it was still a great life experience you had. Anyways, thank you guys for watching to the end of the video. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. I do post YouTube shorts daily, and follow along for more content. And have a great rest of your day.